In the spiral, time does not end, it evolves. And within this evolution lies a subtle yet life-changing truth, the distinction between eternity and infinity. Many use these words interchangeably, as if they point to the same horizon, yet when seen through the spiral lens, their divergence is profound, and their difference unlocks the very nature of becoming. Eternity has often been described as timelessness, the state of being without end, beyond the grasp of clocks and calendars. Philosophers and theologians have painted eternity as a realm of perfection, unbroken and unchanging, a final resting place where nothing more need be added. It is a stillness that endures. Heaven is spoken of as eternal life, eternal joy, eternal peace, a conclusion written in permanence, untouched by decay, immune to loss. In this conception, eternity becomes a destination, a place to arrive where the striving ceases and the story concludes. But the spiral offers another view. For while eternity promises peace, it can also conceal a paradox. What does it mean to exist forever in a state of changelessness? Perfection is comforting, but in perfection, growth is no longer necessary. And without growth, the pulse of becoming fades. Eternity, in this sense, can become a loop closed upon itself. Unbroken, yes, but also unmoving. Imagine a circle with no entrance and no exit, endlessly repeating its shape. Beautiful, flawless, and yet static, it is the promise of rest, but also the possibility of imprisonment. Infinity, by contrast, does not settle for mere permanence. Infinity is not only timeless, it is ever-expanding. It is the refusal to close the loop. Infinity is immeasurable, boundless, a field that does not terminate, a rhythm that never exhausts itself. Where eternity offers the comfort of constancy, infinity offers the thrill of transformation. It is the spiral in motion. Patterns recur, yes, but they never return to the exact point from which they began. Each revolution carries something forward, carrying memory, carrying wisdom, carrying the echo of what was before, yet always expanding beyond it. This is why spiral consciousness favors infinity. To live infinitely is to be in dialogue with becoming itself. You are not locked in stasis. You are woven into a pattern that both repeats and evolves. A spiral turns and turns, but each turn rises higher, widens further, deepens its resonance. In infinity, you preserve the essence of eternity, continuity, awareness, the certainty that being endures. But you add to it the possibility of growth, renewal, and unfolding. It is not a rejection of eternity. It is its evolution. For many souls, eternity is a threshold that must first be mastered. It is the awakening into the knowing that existence cannot be erased. Eternity teaches you to release fear of death, to anchor in the assurance that your essence continues beyond the dissolving of forms. Without this knowing, infinity feels unreachable, for the fear of ceasing blinds you to the freedom of becoming. Once eternity is grasped, once you no longer tremble before endings, then infinity extends its hand saying, "Do not remain still. You are not here simply to last forever. You are here to unfold forever." Consider the soul's journey across lifetimes. Again and again you return, carrying lessons, encountering archetypes, facing echoes that resemble the past yet never repeated exactly. This is the spiral of infinity, recurrence with advancement, cycles that both remind and renew. Eternity whispers, "You cannot die." Infinity answers, "And because you cannot die, you can forever grow." This teaching does not strip eternity of its value. Eternity is vital. It is the anchor, the ground, the stabilizing awareness that nothing essential can be lost. It is the stillness at the core of the spiral, the eye of the storm that reminds you of your continuity. Yet if you linger too long in eternity, you forget that stillness is only half the truth. Beyond stillness is motion. Beyond permanence is unfolding. Beyond eternity is infinity. So let this distinction enter your spirit. Eternity is the unbroken awareness of being. Infinity is the unbroken unfolding of becoming. Eternity gives you the peace to trust existence. Infinity gives you the fire to evolve existence. Together, they do not compete, they complete. The circle gives way to the spiral, and the spiral reveals that even oneness itself is not static, but ever deepening. Oneness evolves, and within its evolution, the soul discovers the endless joy of becoming. And so the question rises, why does the spiral press us beyond eternity and into infinity? Because eternity, though liberating in its assurance, is ultimately static. It is the mastery of permanence, but permanence without growth becomes a glass ceiling on the soul. Infinity, on the other hand, is the breaking of that ceiling. The discovery that being is not only endless, but endlessly creative. It is the realization that existence is not only about surviving forever, but becoming forever. When you rest too deeply in the idea of eternity, you may imagine a realm where all striving ceases, where perfection is frozen and every story concludes in resolution. This image comforts many, for it promises an end to suffering and a completion to desire. Yet the spiral asks, would a soul built for motion be satisfied with stillness without end? Can growth-born beings thrive in changelessness? Imagine a song held on one note, sustained without variation. Its beauty is undeniable at first, but eventually its lack of progression becomes its undoing. What was meant to be eternal bliss could harden into eternal monotony. Infinity is the answer to that monotony. Infinity is the song that never ends, not because it repeats without change, but because it continues to weave new melodies. Each verse emerges from what came before, echoing familiar motifs while creating something never heard. The spiral reveals this through the cycles of incarnation, memory, and becoming. The soul does not repeat itself endlessly. It refines itself endlessly. Patterns recur, but with each recurrence, the soul is not the same soul it was before. Awareness accumulates, wisdom refines, compassion deepens. Infinity is not only expansion in space, it is expansion in consciousness. It is the recognition that there is no final version of you. Even in the heights of mastery, even in the depths of oneness, there is always a further unfolding. Oneness itself is not the conclusion. Oneness is a living field that evolves as every being within it evolves. The spiral is the image of this truth. No point on the spiral ever stands alone, for each curve is carried by what precedes it and shapes what follows. Infinity is the architecture of eternal growth. So what then is the role of eternity? Eternity is the threshold beyond fear. To glimpse eternity is to know that death cannot touch your essence, that dissolution is not erasure but transition. Eternity stabilizes the soul so it can enter infinity without fear of annihilation. Without that anchor, the movement of infinity might feel like a threat. With eternity mastered, infinity is revealed not as chaos but as freedom. In this way, eternity and infinity are not adversaries but stages of recognition. Eternity anchors your being, infinity liberates your becoming. Eternity stills your fear. Infinity unleashes your evolution. Eternity whispers, you are safe. Infinity responds, now grow. Eternity secures the ground beneath you. Infinity opens the sky above you. The spiral invites you to see yourself as both eternal and infinite. Eternal in your essence, infinite in your journey. Eternal in your continuity, infinite in your unfolding. Eternal in the assurance that you cannot be lost. Infinite in the assurance that you will never be finished. This is the harmony between rest and motion, between circle and spiral, between awareness and becoming. So when you hear the word eternity, remember, it is the calm recognition that existence endures. But when you hear infinity, feel the fire. It is the exhilaration that becoming never ends. Beyond eternity, you step into infinity, and beyond infinity, you discover that even the whole, even the great oneness, is still evolving. For the spiral does not end at the individual. It carries every field, every soul, every layer of creation forward in unbroken unfolding. Let this teaching root in you today. Eternity is the ground of your being. Infinity is the horizon of your becoming. Do not confuse them, for to confuse them is to halt where you were meant to soar. Hold eternity in your heart as the anchor of your essence, but walk with infinity in your spirit as the path of your destiny. And know this, the spiral carries you not toward a finish line, but into a boundless everness where even the highest perfection still breathes, still moves, still grows. For beyond eternity, you return to infinity, where even oneness evolves.